First, the latest in a series of extreme weather events around the world that experts say have been made more likely by climate change. Firefighters continue to battle wildfires in Hawaii. At least 36 people have been killed. The popular tourist town of Lahaina on the island of Maui has been largely burned to the ground. U.S. President Joe Biden has declared a major disaster, triggering the release of federal funding for the people in Maui County. And U.S. soldiers have joined search and recovery efforts. Let's take a listen to what President Biden had to say in the last few minutes.
I want to say a word about the devastating wildfires that have claimed at least 36 lives in Maui and Hawaii. We have just approved a major disaster declaration for Hawaii, which will get aid into the hands of the people desperately needing help now. They've lost, anyone who's lost a loved one whose home has been damaged or destroyed is going to get help immediately. And I've directed that we surge support to these brave firefighters and first responders and emergency personnel working around the clock there, risking their lives. I just got off the phone before I got here for a long conversation with Governor Josh Green this morning. Let him know I'm going to make sure the state has everything it needs from the federal government to recover. The FEMA Administrator Griswold will be in Maui tomorrow, and I've directed her to streamline any process with requests for help and survivors registered for immediate federal assistance without delay. FEMA is surging disaster assistance personnel on the island, and they're going to help survivors get access to federal assistance. And you know, anybody who wants to know out there where to go if this is televised, that they can go to disasterassistance.gov, disasterassistance.gov, to learn if you're eligible for assistance. And I've ordered all available federal assets on the island, including the U.S. Coast Guard, the Navy 3rd Fleet, and the U.S. Army, to assist local emergency response crews along with the Hawaiian National Guard. We're working as quickly as possible to fight these fires and evacuate residents and tourists. In the meantime, our prayers with the people of Hawaii, but not just our prayers. Every asset we have will be available to them, and they've seen their homes, their business destroyed, and some have lost loved ones, and it's not over yet.
President Biden speaking there a short while ago, and my colleague Clive Myrie has been taking a closer look at the scale of the fires and the extent of the destruction.
A paradise well and truly lost. The Hawaiian island of Maui, more Dante's Inferno.
Oh my gosh, look at the harbor.
A helicopter pilot used to ferrying tourists over a magical landscape.
Oh my gosh.
Now watching blonde, pristine beaches turn black.
This looks like Baghdad or something.
The high street in the historic city of Lahaina. Shops and livelihoods burned. Explosions as petrol stations, anything combustible ignites in the ferocious heat.
This is not even the worst of it. Still get dead bodies in the water floating and on the seawall. They've been sitting there since last night. We've been pulling people out since last night, trying to save people's lives. And I feel like we're not getting the help we need.
Woke up this morning and got on our phones to pictures of our house, just down to the slab, nothing but smoke.
And here's another picture. This, a satellite image of Lahaina taken last month. And this image, taken just yesterday, a holiday snap from hell.
We understand Hawaiian homelands was destroyed, a school was destroyed, many of the businesses, a church was destroyed. It's going to take years.
Years to fix a broken land, but with the spectre of climate change an ever-present danger.
Let's bring in our Washington correspondent, Lorna Gordon, who's been looking into President Biden's efforts to help Hawaii. Lorna, it's good to see you. Tell us more about what the president's declaration means.
Yeah, President Biden declared a major emergency. This unlocks federal funds to aid in the recovery effort. It gets money into the hands of those who really need it. He said they'll prioritise those who've lost loved ones, those who've lost their hands. And, you know, this really was and has been a catastrophic situation on Maui. Those fires were fast, they were destructive, they were deadly. Eyewitnesses, some of the testimony quite distressing, talk of having just minutes to leave their homes. One said the firestorm was so fast that he doused himself with water, tried to run to the sea, but his rubber slippers were melting as he ran. Another who lost his home talked of seeing bodies floating in the seawall by the harbour. That number of 36 reported dead is expected to rise. You know, the efforts to contain the fires are still ongoing. President Biden has said all federal assets in the area will help because there are, of course, a number of military bases in Hawaii. There's a naval base. The fleet, one of the fleets is in the area. The Army, the National Guard, the Coast Guard as well are all now assisting. The local authorities say at any one time 100 firefighters are on the ground to try and contain the blazes, but there are difficulties with communication. Some of the cell phone networks have been down. There's talk of people sleeping in their cars. Thousands have been evacuated to shelters. Thousands more are being evacuated off the island. Tourists are being assisted to get home. Others who were planning to go to Lahaina, because it is a big tourist destination, are being asked not to head there. And the local authorities say the damage, well, it will take months to assess, but they're already saying it could run into the billions.
Lorna, thank you for that update. Let's go right to Maui now, and we can speak to Malika Dudley, a meteorologist and resident of the island. Malika, thank you so much for joining us in what is a very difficult time. We understand that you and your family had to flee. Tell us about that.
Well, it was Tuesday morning around 1 a.m. and I woke up to the smell of smoke. That's not uncommon on the island of Maui. We have very strong winds. There was a red flag warning that was posted. I'm a meteorologist, so I actually had reported on it just the day before. So we knew that there was low humidity, high winds, lots of dry brush, and all it would take is just a little spark to make a fire spread very quickly. In the past, we're dealing with one fire, and for the most part, those fires tend to happen in the uninhabited area of Maui through that central valley, because that's where the winds are the strongest. Unfortunately, with Dora passing to the south and high pressure to the north, that pressure gradient brought us really high winds. So we were expecting 60-mile-per-hour gusts. We got 80-mile-per-hour gusts. So that's what the issue was. That is what had power lines going down. When power lines go down, they spark. Obviously, there's no official cause of the fire because investigations have not yet been done, but from witnesses, that's what we understand. So that first fire started in Olinda. It actually took a home almost immediately, and it started to spread down the mountain, Haleakala Mountain, towards my subdivision. My subdivision was actually the very first subdivision to get evacuated. So we got a phone call at 3 a.m. I was trying to sleep from 1 a.m. to 3, just smelling the smoke and thinking, oh, it's probably far away. It wasn't. At 3 a.m., we got a call, get out. That was our neighbor calling, and the sky was red. So I grabbed my 3 children, and I have also the child of a friend staying with us, grabbed all 4 kids, threw them in the car, drove past fire trucks. Police officers were doing door-to-door evacuations.
Wow.
And it was really scary.
I can imagine that must have been such a harrowing experience, Malika. Tell us how things are at the moment. How are people coping?
I think we're all in a state of shock. And if you're not in a state of shock, you're in a state of mourning at this point. A lot of people have lost their homes, and that was already hard enough. But now hearing the number continue to rise, and knowing now that we're starting to hear stories coming out of Lahaina that people were running for their lives, literally, and knowing that There are people who are not as mobile. There are people who are bedridden. I'm hearing stories of, a husband running in to help his bedridden wife and couldn't get there in time, couldn't get her out, and just had to run. And he has burns. I'm hearing stories of a young lady who literally ran out of her home and had to jump over the seawall into the water and spent 7 hours in the water waiting to be rescued, and felt like she was getting hypothermia to the point where she would approach anything that was on fire to help to keep her warm. So these are the stories that are coming out of Lahaina, and we anticipate that this number is going to rise. And when you look at the photos, the images of just how many homes were taken, and how quickly that fire moved through, it's looking really grim. So we're all really sad.
Malika, it's just a terrible tragedy. We are looking at pictures right now as you're speaking of the destruction. What do people on Maui need right now?
Well, we want to say mahalo for all the love and the aloha that we're feeling from around the world, around the nation, and from our fellow Hawaii residents. We could use monetary donations to the right organizations. So Hawaii Community Foundation is a reputable organization. Maui United Way, Maui Food Bank, those would be my top 3. And Maui Rapid Response is currently joining people who want to help. So whether that's services, money, donations, with people who need the help. And they're currently working on a website, mauirapidresponse.org, which should have all of that information. Right now, there's a Google Doc that you can go and fill out and say, I just got a DM from a friend over Instagram. I want to help with school supplies and children. And so she can go and type that in, and they will connect the dots.
That's really important information, Malika. Thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you and your family, and of course everyone in the community, safety in this very, very difficult time.
Thank you.